This is a called meeting of the Morrisburg Golf Commission. April the 30th, 2025. The commission will now come to order. I've asked Kirk to lead us in prayer and our pledge to the flag. Kirk.
All right, let's bow our heads. Father in heaven, we just thank you for this day. We thank you for waking us up, starting our day. We thank you for this meeting. Why don't we just state what's best and do what's best for the golf community and what's best for Murfreesboro. We ask you to bless everyone here today. In Jesus Christ's name, amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
When did you have any guests to make a public statement?
I'm not aware of any.
Not aware of any. Has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes from our last meeting, March 12th? Is there any comments or questions about the last minutes? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve as presented.
So moved.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Those in favor, would you please raise your hand? Opposed? No opposition. The motion carries. As the minutes are approved as presented. Thank you, Wendy. The only other business we have today is the changes to the Old Fort golf rates. Mr. Adams? It's all yours.
All right, thank you. So our last meeting kind of gave you a snapshot of the budget, just to kind of catch everyone up. And then this is before any budget meetings, also before a lot of the rate increases at other area courses took place. So now we have that information. We went to the budget meetings. After our initial budget meetings, they asked kind of across the board, every department to look at trying to cut about $100,000 out of their budget, out of their operating budget. We can always refer back to what we talked about last time, but we found, and we did find some cuts, and a lot of them were cuts to, fixed assets, things of that nature. We looked at replacing the 30-year-old roof in the clubhouse. That was one of the items on the cut. That was about $40,000. We looked at, some operational expenses, 5% here and there where we thought we maybe have over budgeted in the past, to just be conservative in our budgeting. But to finish cutting the rest of that, you're going to have to start cutting staff. So on a golf course that's busier than ever, if we're trying to balance a budget, we're trying to operate revenue neutral, then we've got to start looking at the revenue side of things. So that's what we did. We went out, we compared our rates to those in the area of similar, or at least public golf courses. So hopefully you saw that attachment in the agenda. You can kind of see what the average market rate is there. And I really just looked at the top three because not all the rates is easy to find. The other thing is really these are the three rates that drive the most revenue. So we looked at 9-hole rates. We were pretty close to the market, so we didn't do a ton there. But these three rates are the biggest chunk of our revenue producers. And so that's the ones that I really wanted to focus on. So you can see what the market rates are. You can see what our current rates are. And then what kind of our proposed rates are. So essentially it breaks down to a $1 increase on 9-hole rates across the board, resident, non-resident, everything's going up the same amount. So $1 on all the 9-hole greens fees, $1 on all the 9-hole cart rentals, $5 on all the 18-hole greens fees, and $2 on all the 18-hole cart rentals. So again, that's across the board, resident, non-resident. So with those rates, for example, if you look at our proposed rates on those 3 rates. That would put us, all of the rates do not include sales tax. So for us, we're only having to tax the cart rate because we're a municipal golf course. So all that's taxed is the cart rate, not the cart rate and the greens fee. So that works out for the proposed new rate, I guess, for a resident, again, not sales tax not included, $43.49 would be the senior 18-hole rate. And if you compare that to the market average, that's $49.75. For a non-resident, it would be $47.49. Again, compared to the market average, $49.75. The proposed 18-hole rate with a cart for a weekday round for a resident is $55.49, non-resident $60.49, and then you compare that to the market rate of $62.14. Then the 18-hole weekend rate with cart, $64.49, and then non-resident $70.49. And then you compare that again with the market rate of $74.16. So as you can see across the board, our residents are going to pay less than our market average still with these rate increases, and our non-residents are going to be closer to market average, but still below it. If we were to increase our rates by this much, that would generate about $400,000 in additional revenue, which would allow us to not only balance our budget, but also cover the shortfalls at Bloomfield, and put us in a position where if this budget is approved, typically at that time, they also look at maybe a cost of living adjustment for staff. So that's usually 2 to 3%. That's not factored into our current operational budget, so that gives us a little headway for that, and maybe for even next year as well, because we're trying to look at maybe an every other year type increase. So hopefully this would put us at least in the market now, probably below market even more next year, but could hopefully at least balance our budget this year and next if we were to make this increase. So I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Trey, when was our last increase?
Went into effect August 1st of 2023.
2023.
Hey, Trey, I'm curious about Bloomfield. How does it costing so much money?
Basic staffing. I mean, to run those programs. I mean, we have in the past we had Jex, who was. We paid him 20-something thousand, 24,000, I think. But Jax ran those junior programs here. Obviously, Jax is no longer here. So when he left, we chose if we wanted to try to grow those programs, if we wanted to try to increase play at Bloomfield, that we need a full-time person there, so we hired Emily. So basically, our operational costs and our revenue generated match one another, but then our payroll is really the difference there.
Does that projected $400,000 account for anyone who might choose to play at another course now that if we do approve, or if the rate increase does get approved, the people who might just say, well, I'll go play Cedar Crest now. I was playing Old Fort because they were, $20 cheaper, $15 cheaper, but now that they're going up, I might select another course here in town because they're all relatively similar.
Yeah, good question. I'll show you. So my calculations, let's see.
They're not similar.
So this is I can send you this information. It's a little easier to view on probably your own computer, but basically all the calculations were our last full budget year open, 2023. So we took the rounds played there, which we had a rate increase in August of 23. So we had about 5 or 6 months, almost half of that budget year where we had a rate increase and half where we didn't. So what I used was since that was the last full budget year our course was open, I used the number of rounds played. So that was 47,677. Those were paid rounds. That doesn't include things like, so there were close to 50,000 rounds that year. There's things like middle school golf, high school golf, certain staff playing. So there were more rounds even than that, but those were the paid rounds. So basically my calculations were based on those numbers, less with a 5% decrease figured in. So we were, so that's basically what they were calculated on. So that number there would be, this is kind of the breakdown of how many rounds were projected for each, the revenue they create, the cart fee increases, the revenue it creates, that's the total, versus the current rates, basically, 420. So there's a 5%, last full year we're open with a 5% kind of decrease built in.
Does the course offer, and I don't think so, and I'll tell you why I'm asking, is there any like twilight round rate or anything like that that might be a little cheaper, super long, super short? There was a weekend recently, I didn't think I was going to get to play, had my late afternoon free up and said, it might be nice to see if there's a course in town where I get a twilight rate. I know Cedar Crest used to do it, and I called and they were like, our first available tee time's at like 5:30 and it's $80.
Yeah.
And I'm like, to maybe get 9 in, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not paying that.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if that would be, if the rent, or not the rent, the green fee increase, if there would be another option for people to say, like kids, when people are on the course, that brings the course money. And so
Right.
if they're, even if it's like, you can't book it online, you have to show up at the clubhouse at 5, and then we'll just start giving out, there's a 2-hour slot of times. We give out, $40 twilight rates, whatever.
So we don't have a twilight rate. We do obviously offer a 9-hole rate. So for people that want to play, most people, we have a few that will come out and pay the 9-hole rate to play 5 holes, but most people are going to at least allot themselves enough time to play 9. And so what we tell, the way we handle that situation is pay the 9-hole rate, play your 9 holes, come check with us at the turn. If you want to pay for the back 9, it's you don't pay 9-hole, if you pay the 9-hole rate twice, it would be more than the 18-hole rate. So we have a button kind of to calculate the difference, so you pay the difference in the 9-hole rate versus the 18-hole rate, which would bring you up to paying the 18-hole rate.
Sure.
If you got to the turn and wanted to keep going, knowing that you might not get it in. So that's kind of how we handle that situation. I don't know if that, but to have a specific twilight rate to play as many holes as you can get in before dark, we don't have.
What's a 9-hole rate walking?
Turning currently?
Yeah, well, it's not, but $20?
Correct, yeah, if you're talking current, the most expensive one would be a weekend 9-hole rate walking for a non-resident, right? That's $33. Weekday it's 26. If you're a senior, that's 18, and that's non-resident. So,
Yeah. Well, also, I don't know anybody that's doing the twilight rate anymore. I think the reason that you don't see the twilight rate is there's such a demand for golf, and that's basically been taken away. As long as the demand is there, you're not going to get a twilight, and I think that's where we are is you don't have to do a twilight because you have the demand right now.
Well, I appreciate the fact that Hole 4 does, if you hit the turn and, you played the front 9, you only paid for 9, you're not getting essentially just double on the 9
Yeah,
rate.
yeah.
We'll essentially adjust it to where you're just playing 18.
Yeah.
And it's the golfer's risk of, you may not get all 18 in, but I appreciate that instead
Yeah.
of just hitting them again with a 9-hole rate.
right. Yeah, we try to be, and we tell them, hey, because that tee sheet after a certain point, 2 hours before dark or whatever, or maybe 2 hours and 20 minutes before dark, it automatically makes you book 9 holes, and we have that conversation with those. They get there early enough, like, hey, pay for 9, come in at the turn, carts are due in at whatever time that is, sunset that day, and we just try to communicate that to them and And if they want to keep going, that's certainly up to them.
You think if we go with these rates, they're good for, we can ride them out for a couple of years?
I think so. I think this should at least get us a
I'm
couple
really
of
thinking,
years.
I want this 55 rate to kind of stay there, because I roll into that category at Christmas.
Well, now we might have to look at raising that age.
I want to be able to ride that for a little while. I don't want an age race either, you know?
Well, so there's other conversations we could have. You know, most.
Pension pennies.
I didn't know Robert won 50.
There's a couple, there's one of the, I think Indian Hills is 60, not 62, but a lot of the senior range is 62. So, I mean, there's other conversations we could have about not charging, charging weekend rates on Friday, changing the senior rate to 62 next year for Robert, things
What
like
would be
that.
the advantage if you changed from what we're currently doing? Are you going to see a huge spike in revenue on that?
It would be hard to say on the senior age thing, because we just don't track that. I do know if we went back, it's probably logged me out, let's see.
And the reason I ask that is, or the reason I say that is, kind of back to your point of, will people go somewhere else if we increase the rates? And I'm going in there, I don't know where they're going to go.
Yeah.
There's nowhere else to go right now. It's a little bit fish in a barrel. If you've got a golf course that's playable, you're going to stay busy anywhere. And everywhere, you can't get on anywhere. I mean, everywhere, as soon as the tee times open up, everybody fills up. But I think by the combo of us doing senior rates all the days and doing that, I think it's great customer service on top of a great golf course, which is going to just fill the tee sheet more.
Right.
That's my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, to answer your question, and that would, we could look at numbers. Right now, the weekend, so just this weekend 18-hole greens fee makes up 10% of revenue. Obviously, it only makes up 2 days a week, so it would, I'd have to figure out some stuff, but it would be.
I think the way you got it structured works to me. I think it's a good setup the way that it is.
And again, I still think with these proposed rates, we're still coming in $10, $12. I mean, probably some of these courses in town, $15 cheaper. We were $20 cheaper as of right now, and we're only increasing $5-6. So I still think it's the nicest course in town by far, and still the cheapest, relatively by far.
So when we shut down for renovation, everybody jumped up. I mean, they raised their rates immediately. And like I say, what we've got here now looks like it's just going to get us back fairly close to everybody else.
To know that I got to spend $73 on a Saturday to play Cedar Crest, knowing what Cedar Crest is, as much as they've done with it, is knowing what it is to know that our place is 60, it's not even close. Indian Hills, you're putting on dirt, it's not even close. So I think you got a good formula, a good menu for what we're doing right now. Even with the increases, it's still way inside the ballpark.
I always thought we needed to stay right under the state parks, which, and I noticed here, senior rate with a card in Henry Horton is $49. They charge their cards, they charge $18 for a card. We don't, we only get $13 and something out of that $15.
Correct. That's correct.
So I don't know whether they pay taxes on top of that or then.
The $49 rate for Henry Horton does not include tax, so there would be tax on top of that, but they would probably be just like us in the fact they're only having to tax the cart rate, I would imagine, to be in a state.
So that'd make that $49 even more, and we're gonna be at?
Non-resident, $47.49, so I think that works out to be
Yeah, and resident 43.
49 with the car's tax in,
Yeah, 43.
to about 45
45 for, yeah.
with tax.
Senior rate's going up about $7.
I got a question about the discount.
Yeah.
Or I was asked to bring this up in this meeting
Okay.
about the discount. I have an acquaintance that saw me at an event the other night who owns a business in town, in the city limits, and pays city taxes on his business, but lives in a different county. And he's like, I can't get the residence rate at Old Fort, but yet I spend all my business tax money is inside the city. And he said, can you ask if there's any way that could be considered for a business owner, a non-resident business owner, to be able to get the resident discount?
Can I answer that one, Trey?
Sure.
We've studied that for years, and it opens a can of worms.
Okay.
And there's just, the process does not allow for it. We dealt with it with parks when it came to all of ours that we set in. And there's always a few that have the same, and it's, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
But it's a resident discount. So,
Easy enough.
yeah. Well, I get that it's irrational, to ask, but it just really opens a can of worms.
I still just up his prices to cover
Your golf course.
Yeah, because it's on, I mean, for staff, they're checking driver's license,
Yeah.
what that says. I know you look at other places that offer resident discounts, if they verify it, that they're doing the same thing, they're using a driver's license, so we're just consistent there.
Good enough. I have now fulfilled my duty.
We get the same question all the time.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible.
It's impossible to try it, right?
Yeah, it really goes into the spirit of what we're trying to do.
I was assuming that would be the case, but.
Right. Buy a house in Murfreesboro.
Yeah.
I would add to this, if I could, just for a second. If you vote on this and accept it, traditionally, this has gone to city council afterward. We're changing the model just a little bit to follow what the Parks and Recreation Commission does. When fees are adjusted, that is done and approved at that level and doesn't continue to city council for approval. So it's just a little bit of a process update.
Quick question, if these rates are increased or approved, when would that go into effect, like July 1?
Well, we looked at a 30-day notice, so at last meeting at the end of the month, we could possibly maybe look at a June 1 date. We could obviously decide that here. The thing, I guess, the only thing I would say about, just to make you aware, obviously, which this year we're going to lose money. We're going to lose money anyway because we're closed July and August. So, that's two of our busiest months. So just this budget we're going to lose money. If we waited a month, that would cost the city about $50,000, versus we're already under the market. So we can wait till July 1, but we're just shooting ourselves in the foot by doing
It
so.
would be nice to go ahead and recoup what we lost in July and August, some of it.
So Nate, you're saying the final approval does not go to city council anymore?
That's correct.
No, I just think July 1, just because that's usually when, government
Yeah.
just enacts stuff, it's usually.
And we can do that. That's.
I'm happy with June 1st, I don't
Yeah.
care.
June's fine.
Yeah, I'm good with you. June it is.
Maybe you saying we decide that?
I'm sorry,
You
decide.
saying we decide that, the date, and
Yeah, yes, sir.
these are rate increases?
There's no reason that you couldn't establish exactly. You could say you want to start tomorrow if you want to, but obviously you wouldn't do that.
And the rates, we establish them as well?
Yes, sir.
And it doesn't go to the city council?
That's correct. That was done just out of practice, not policy.
Yeah.
It probably happened sometime in the 80s or 90s, and then everybody just said, well, that's just what we do, but there's no ordinance or anything that requires that. We adjust fee, I gave Trey, we've adjusted park fees this year a ton just because staffing, cost of doing business is going up, so. But I say that to say we've adjusted hundreds and hundreds of fees. Mr. Turner can attest to us doing that quite a bit in parks, and it never has gone to council.
Any other questions,
Well, I
comments?
think, Trace has given us reason, and we've discussed it enough, but I think we know that there's a need to do it. So, yeah, I'm ready to call the question.
Any other comment or questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion.
You specify a date on that.
Oh, I make a motion we approve the rate increase as displayed here to go effective 6/1/25.
Okay, we have a second. Those in favor, please raise your hand. Those opposed? Carried unanimously. The motion is carried.
So really, all I've done today is come in, ask a question, get turned down, and cost myself more money.
That's why we waited on you.
Don, I got something else, something I have on.
Okay, we still got,
Oh, we go through new, old business?
yeah, we have the old business that we need to discuss this morning. Any other business?
Yeah.
Alan's got something.
Yeah, another day, and Kurt, I talked to Kurt about this from the city's standpoint. There was a young kid that he couldn't have been over 6 years old, I don't think, driving the car. It looked like what his grandfather was, what looked like his grandfather was riding in the driver's seat. And, I asked the ranger and the starter about it, and they thought it was okay that the other guy was responsible. But I think we have a rule or an ordinance or something that restricted the age limit for kids on the course,
We've got several,
much less driving.
no, you're right, they have to have a driver's license. It's not age, they have to have a driver's license. So we've got a bunch of new starters and marshals, and I'll just reiterate that to them, that they need to, we'll make them aware of that.
Yeah, because it alarmed me. I mean,
Yeah.
first he's parked wrong, he's parked on the grass. That's why I noticed. That always irritates me. You park, But then he started the cart toward the range and then turned back going down 9 and then tried to get across Sept.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess his granddaddy helped him. He got it backed up and then back around, but starter seemed to think that it was okay.
Yeah, we'll make sure they should have a driver's license. We'll
Okay, good. Yeah, because, we don't need the cart driven off the river.
No, we do not.
Anything else? If not, we stand adjourned.